Joining us now, ranking member of the Select Committee on the Strategic Competition between the United States and the Chinese Communist Party, Congressman Raja Krishnamoorthi of Illinois. Congressman, great to have you on with us this morning. I want to ask you specifically about FBI Director Wray's comments that the FBI believes it is most likely that this was a lab leak. That comes on the heels of the Department of Energy saying with low confidence it too believes it was a lab leak. Where are you on that question?
I still, first of all, I think that we have to figure out the origins of the leak or origins of the pandemic to be able to prevent it. But there's a tremendous lack of transparency on the part of the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, with regard to the origin. Where I come out is I'm not sure. There are about 10 different assessments within the intelligence community, and they're kind of all over the map at this point. But only the FBI has come out with moderate confidence. The rest have said low confidence accompanies their conclusions, which just points to the lack of information with regard to this situation.
So, Congressman, let's talk bigger picture then about this committee. A bipartisan committee had that primetime hearing last night. From where you sit as a Democrat on that committee, what is the objective of this committee? What exactly do you want to get to the bottom of?
I think first we have to investigate and uncover facts with regard to the challenges that the CCP poses from an economic, military, and technological security perspective. And then secondly, what are the next steps to deal with those challenges? We are not a committee that is a committee of original jurisdiction with regard to legislation, but we can help to usher through other committees of jurisdiction the legislation that would address these challenges. And I think that that's something that many of us want to do.
We're hearing a lot, Congressman, about TikTok, obviously an incredibly popular social media app that not just a lot of kids, a lot of people at this point have on their phones, 100 million, something like that in the United States alone. Do you view TikTok as a threat to the United States, not just because it's data mining, but because it's pushing narratives into the bloodstream of the American culture?
Potentially. That's why, TikTok has been banned from all government devices, and that was done on a bipartisan basis just last Congress. But just so your viewers know, TikTok is owned by ByteDance, which is a Chinese company that has to adhere to two laws. One is that it's required to provide user data on any user anywhere in the world to the Chinese Communist Party upon request, and it's not allowed to disclose when it does so. And then secondly, the CCP embeds itself within ByteDance and other Chinese companies such that they help to control the policies and products of those companies, and so they can ultimately control the algorithm and the content that's delivered to hundreds of millions of users worldwide, including in the U.S., and that's why we're so disturbed.
Congressman, good morning. Jonathan Lemire. The hearing, of course, comes at a moment increased tensions between Washington and Beijing and more warnings from the administration, including from Secretary of State Blinken just yesterday, about the possibility of China sending lethal aid to Russia to help with their invasion of Ukraine. If it is determined that China is doing so, what would be the proper response from the administration and the Congress?
Well, I think that the CCP would have to pay a price, and Secretary Blinken laid out that not only would individuals and firms that were involved with the export of, for instance, artillery shells or other lethal aid to Russia be sanctioned, but I think that there would be potentially other ramifications as well. This is a very serious issue, and I hope that the CCP takes this as seriously as they should and not export these items.
Congressman, earlier we played a clip from Congressman Comer, chairman of the House Oversight Committee, complaining about the U.S. attorney in Delaware never went after Beau Biden rather than Hunter Biden. My question to you is, your committee is chaired by Congressman Mike Gallagher of Wisconsin. And watching the committee perform yesterday, my sense was that perhaps Congressman Gallagher is a rational human being who might actually see some nonpartisanship in this committee. Am I being naive in thinking that?
No, I don't think so. I mean, despite the fact that he's a Packers fan, I'm a Bears fan, and I'm not going to hold that against him. I think that he conducted last night's hearing very well, and as you could tell, I mean, there were 24 members on the committee, and by and large, they were very focused on the serious issues at hand as opposed to partisan matters. And I just have to say the witnesses were stellar and really articulated very eloquently the challenges posed by the CCP.
Congressman, your committee is clearly doing, just to get back to China, your committee is clearly doing important work on a critical issue, but there is a need for diplomacy between the United States and China at the moment, and that meeting with Tony Blinken and his counterpart got cancelled. Is there any concern that you have that the heightened rhetoric that is coming out of your committee and coming out of Congress on a variety of issues concerning China might make diplomacy harder at a time that it's really needed?
Well, I think, first of all, I agree with you that we have to be very careful with the language that is used to describe the challenges that the CCP poses. But on the other hand, let's be also very clear that the CCP has crossed a number of lines recently and is about to cross some red lines with regard to potentially providing lethal aid to the Russians in Ukraine. All that being said, you're absolutely right that Secretary Blinken and the Biden administration need to keep those open lines of communication and make sure that messages are delivered clearly so that there's never any miscalculation on the part of the leadership of CCP. Remember, Chairman Xi Jinping is probably surrounded by a group of yes men, people who keep reinforcing his beliefs and assumptions, not only about what they should be doing within the People's Republic of China, but also about the United States. And so we need to continue to provide them with accurate information about the consequences of actions they take, and also look for ways to potentially engage them going forward on important issues of mutual concern, whether it's climate change or debt relief, macroeconomic stability, and the like.
All right, ranking member of the Select Committee on Strategic Competition between the U.S. and the Chinese Communist Party, Congressman Raja Krishnamoorthi of Illinois. Thank you very much for being on this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.